This episode of Cape Ann Today is brought to you by The Building Center, setting the standard for quality and service since 1903.
I am speaking to Michea McCaffrey, Kiana Dubose, and Nancy Goodman, all from the Gloucester Racial Justice Team. Did I say your names all right there?
Yes, you did.
Oh, good, good. So would one of you like to introduce us to the Gloucester Racial Justice Team? What's the about page say?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Gloucester Racial Justice Team was started in the summer of 2020. It was an outgrowth of work that was already happening at Gloucester High School. And this was in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, a lot of energy towards needing to rectify the historic problems of race. And for people who question, well, why in Gloucester we have such a small percent of Black people, my answer, and which, just to clarify, is not Black people, 3% people of color, 97% white. That really the work to be done is among the white population. It is our job to find the embedded implicit racism in ourselves and work with that and see how we continue to keep the systems in place that don't allow people of color to experience full participation in the society.
Mm. Well, before we go on with the team at large, I'd love to hear each of your backgrounds, how you decided to get involved in this work.
I guess I can go first. Again, Michea McCaffrey here. I got involved with this particular group from a family friend. I was really looking for a way to kind of have my voice be heard in the community. And someone chimed in and said, hey, I know there's a really great group that's formed in your area, and I think you might really like it. So I hopped on a first meeting and I feel like I was immediately hooked. I felt like the group was really encouraging. They wanted to hear what I had to say, and I felt like it would be a great avenue for me to really not only educate the people around me, but make people more aware that this is a great place to live, yet there's still a lot of work to be done. And I want to make sure that I do everything I can to make life for my little boys better because they're growing up in this community as well.
Mm. Thanks for
I
that,
can go
Michea.
next.
Yeah.
So I'm Kiana Dubose. I joined this group because I used to work over at a different school district outside of Gloucester, and I was doing I was helping out Gloucester High School with some professional development, and my lovely friend, Miss Nancy, messaged me on Facebook and said, hey, would you like to join our group? We really liked the work that you did. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome, because my education is in sociology, social inequality, so it's right up my alley. I also live and work right here in Gloucester. So I found this to be the perfect opportunity to help my community, because I really want, I think it's important for everyone to feel safe and welcome, and that they have the ability to thrive in the community.
Mm. And you're working at Veterans Memorial School, right, Kiana?
I do, yes.
Yeah, thanks. And I just want to say, Jim Seavey, your partner, is waiting to jump in. Should we bring him into this conversation?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that.
Hi, Jim. So for me personally, I was working at Gloucester High School and part of the team that I just mentioned earlier in the conversation. And I have years of background of working on different social justice issues, environment and racial. And I just it seemed to me also like an opportunity to make a difference in the community that I'm so invested in.
Hmm. So I want to introduce Jim Seavey here, the treasurer of the Gloucester Racial Justice Team. Is that right, Jim?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. And we're just to the point where we're asking you guys how each of you got involved in the Gloucester Racial Justice Team. Do you want to tell us?
Yeah, I'm just putting my name in instead of my handle. Yes, well, we've been involved in, Gail and I, my wife, have been involved with justice work, racial justice work since the 60s. In college, we lived in a mixed neighborhood, and of course had friends in college as well. And of course it was the 60s, so there was a lot going on. Fast forward, Gail, we lived in Lanesville. I grew up in Rockport, and Gail became a minister. We moved to Minnesota. We did racial justice work in Minnesota. We moved back to Salem. We did racial justice work in Salem and Lynn. Then we were the last 15 years in Nashville, Tennessee, where we also did a lot of work, and there was a much larger population of African American and people of color. And I started doing work in the prisons, and became friends with a lot of people you wouldn't expect to become friends with. And when we get back here, one of the first things we did was to connect with the kind of newly formed racial justice group and with the newly formed North Shore branch of the NAACP. And so the work is very important to us, and the acknowledgement that every human being is part of the family.
Well, the justice team has made one significant action recently, and that was you created a survey. Can somebody tell our audience about this survey and what its intention was?
I can do that. When we were in the beginning stages of us getting together, we were really trying to figure out where we can make the most impact. And one of the things that came up was, why don't we ask people what they would like us to do? So that's how the survey kind of was birthed. And we made sure that we set up a really easy way. We did a QR code. We brought it to the farmers markets. We kind of brought it around town. We posted it on, I think a lot of with the chamber, they did a thing on their page, and we reached out to the community to really try to get the word out. What we were finding was that the target audience, obviously people of color and disenfranchised members of the community, weren't responding as much as we would like. So we opened the survey up to all Gloucester members. We figured if we could teach people and get a perspective on not only the people that we want to help make a difference, but the people who might not know there needs to be a difference being made. That's also an avenue where we could start. I know Nancy mentioned only 3% of the population of Gloucester is diverse. So we had a really hard time getting that 3%. So we opened it up to everyone. And I think a lot that we learned from the survey guided us and showed us where we can kind of put our efforts into really be heard in the community and make a difference.
And most importantly, what did you learn?
I think Jim's going to talk about that one really quickly.
Okay. What did you learn from the survey, Jim?
Oh, I didn't know I was going to be speaking on that, but I'll be happy.
If you want me to, Jim, I'm happy to.
You know, our member, Lourdes, did a huge amount of work on that, and it was just wonderful how she organized the responses that we got. And the biggest concerns were people love it here. They love the environment. They love that in comparison to other places that they've lived, they feel relatively safe. But they also feel a little bit of distancing, a little bit of discomfort, especially when going out in public and going to different restaurants and stores and things like that, where unless they're accompanied by a white person, they get treated with suspicion, and it hurts. So, yeah.
And you presented those results to the Chamber of Commerce, which I thought was a brilliant move. Can somebody tell us about that?
I guess I can hop in there.
Sure.
We met with the chamber and we shared some of these results with them, letting them know that people are having one of the main places people are having issues are when they communicate and interact with businesses. So we are in the process right now of kind of getting maybe a resource or a way of getting the information to businesses so they can better their environments. They can talk to their employees. They can work on ways to maybe acknowledge and root out implicit biases. They can work on ways of being more welcoming to the diverse population who not only lives here, but visits here a lot, especially during the warmer months where people are coming to Gloucester for our amazing scenery and all of the fish and all of the great things that our community has to offer, and letting people know that not only is this a social decision to make the world better, but it's also a business decision. If you have an environment where people of all ethnicities and cultures feel comfortable coming into your establishment, it's gonna make sense not only on the front end but on the back end. So we're in the process right now of working with the chamber in order to kind of put together best practices for business and communities so that they can make a difference in their spaces and make sure that this is something that we're actively working on in our community.
And will this be a piece of literature, a handout? Will there be a talk, conversation? What will that look like?
Possibly all of the above.
Okay, yeah.
We're in the process of kind of working on that right now. Go ahead, Jim.
Also training, training
Main
sessions
thing.
for business owners and workers, so that they aren't tangled up in their own presumptions. It's a way of helping people become more comfortable with everyone, and that's an important goal.
Well, another concrete initiative inspired by the survey is intended to help local nonprofit boards diversify. Can somebody tell us about that?
I would be happy to.
Thanks, Nancy.
So it just seems like a place that, again, that we could make a difference. There are several nonprofit boards, and I should say that the Essex County Community Foundation has very generously funded through their arts program this effort. And I think 7 boards of different arts organizations in town came to an information meeting and are getting
23.
Including, thank you.
Yeah.
And so we're moving forward with that, and at the same time looking for identifying individual people who would like to serve on a board. And then there will be training really on both sides. The boards of directors should understand that this isn't just adding a new person who's going to be acculturated to what's going on there, that board needs to also adapt to include this person, or 2. Actually, we're aiming for 2 per board so that it isn't just a single isolated person. And then working with the people, many people who go onto a board need training because there are certain roles and jobs that they're expected to do. And that's something that we want to try to soften or just maximize success so that it works.
And when I first read about this initiative, I just thought it was so brilliant because we often hear the response, well, there aren't enough people of color in this community. And in fact, there are. And you're doing the work of identifying people and connecting them with a board that they might be interested in serving on. Exactly. And doing all that work. That's just really, really wonderful. I think it's a great, such a practical tool here. Well, speaking of tools, one of the activities that I participated in with you guys and with your community was the 21-day Racial Equity Challenge. It was put out by the United Way of Central Iowa, but anyone could participate. And I was really struck by there were exercises and readings for each day. And towards the end, there was a very simple tool that any organization can use anywhere in the world, regardless of what they do. It's called the For Equity tool. Does anyone want to talk about that?
I can talk about that.
Thanks, Kiana.
Thank you for pointing it out, because it honestly is such a great tool for our mom and pop shops here in Gloucester or our big corporations. So I'll just briefly go over the 4 points. So the first one is, have Black, Indigenous, and people of color been meaningfully involved and authentically represented in this concept or process decision? Number 2 is there a group that benefits more than another because of this process or decision? what could be one unintended consequence of this concept, process, decision for Black, Indigenous, and people of color? And then the fourth one is, what action will be implemented to advance equity in this concept, process, or decision? So this list is meant to help leaders in organizations and decision-making scenarios. It could be plans, activities, or even policy making in like big companies. The benefit of the tool is that there really is no chronological order. One step doesn't need to be completed before the other one is started. You can really start anywhere on the list, which is really helpful, because maybe one issue, maybe one step in the tool is more prevalent than the other one. Maybe that one needs to be addressed, and maybe one or two don't need to be addressed. It's kind of more like a checklist. And not only can this tool be used for decision making, but it can also be used to look back at past decisions. So maybe a couple employees or maybe a couple community members say, hey, this policy is a little weird, maybe we need to look at it. We can look back at this checklist and say, hey, maybe we didn't look at these things, maybe they weren't things that needed to be looked at the time, but let's take the time to look at it now. So it can be used for current decisions or looking at past ones that we can improve on.
Right.
So I think that it's a really good tool for our organizations or big businesses, little businesses, because I know we have a lot of mom and pop shops here in Gloucester. And I know that's a lot to digest, but luckily through the United Way, they made it really easy to digest. And even if there are more questions or you need some more information, they have plenty of extra resources on their website.
Kiana, we might mention that we're planning to run it again as a community. Yes. You want to say about that?
Nancy, so we are planning on doing the 21-day challenge again. We would like to do it leading up to Juneteenth to start some conversation then. We took some feedback from some of our participants and we're working on tweaking some things, maybe having some more discussions at some midway points, talking about certain materials that came up that where we can expand conversation. But we're just kind of we used our 21-day equity challenge, not only because it was Black History Month and it was the perfect time to kind of like pilot it, but it also kind of worked as our first rough draft to see how we can expand on it in the future.
Well, I'm going to make sure we can post those 4 sentences that or 4 questions that somebody can or an organization can ask on our website, or the introduction to this conversation, I think, because I just think getting back to those 4 questions, it's a really good way to have it in your head. We're sort of ringing as you do your work and as you have meetings and as you try to make little decisions, no matter how small your organization is. So thanks for everything. Nancy, go.
You can tell me, catch my breath. I just wanted to add, this is a constantly evolving process of how we're talking about the issue. And it was brought to our attention that just using BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, doesn't include everyone who has moved to this community. So really, as recently as our last meeting, we just expanded our mission statement a teeny bit to say we're addressing, and this is a welcome also to anyone who's watching and thinking, I wonder if I would fit there. So we're trying to address all races, ethnicities, and cultures. Anybody who feels that they are not fully included in this community, we would like to work with you.
So to that point, how can people learn more about the Gloucester Racial Justice Team and connect with you?
Is that me or Michelle?
Anyone.
I don't know.
I think it's any of us.
We have a Facebook page, thanks to Kiana, and that's very active. People are posting there all the time. And also we have an email address, gloucesterracialjusticeteam@gmail.com.
Great. Well, thank you for all this great work. I've really enjoyed all the meetings I've attended and seeing what you guys are up to. And it seems, what I really love about it is it feels like it's not just talk, there's action, and action that can help all of us. So
I have 2 more actions that haven't been mentioned that might be interesting. One is that we are actively participating in helping generate and publicize the Black Biz Ball, which is going to be at the Beaufort on, on May 12th, is it?
Yeah.
And that's
Blackbizball.com would be a place
and
people
that-
could
and
go
that's
for.
That's a statewide Black Business Awards ceremony, celebration, and dinner with dancing. We have purchased tables there and encouraged other local organizations to do the same. So that's been, and that's a result of actually an incident that Nancy did a whole lot of work with Beauport, and this is their kind of reaching out after as a way of ameliorating the effects of that incident. So we're very pleased with that. And the other thing is we're making contact with the mayor now to set up meetings with him and to encourage the city to do the 21-day challenge. And we're going to hopefully be able to help work that out as well.
Wonderful. Anyone else need to add?
I would just like to say that being on this community, being part of this community, and being a person of color, I have seen significant change. So the little you think you can do, it makes an impact, whether it's just being nice to someone, saying hello, being pleasant. This is a Everest that we're climbing. Racism didn't start yesterday. It's not going to be solved, or problems aren't going to be fixed tomorrow. So the little that you think you can do, even if it's just being conscious of the way you communicate with someone or the things that you say, make a difference. So this is something we can all do together.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks for the
Thank you,
opportunity.
all of you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Glad I made it.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.